Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you all. We're very excited, Sherry and I, to be able to present this to you. I know this is a topic that is often kind of a mystery to a lot of people, and I know I've struggled with it, and it's always kind of a work in progress. So being able to share ideas and have discussions about ways we can improve it, I think that's something that's important. So with that, I'm going to actually turn it over. Well, just briefly, I am Ann Katona Lynn. I'm an educational consultant and coach, and I do a lot with schools around integrating mental health, school or substance use, bully prevention, trauma sensitive, positive behavior intervention supports, kind of everything all together, and everybody working unified. So that's kind of it. But I'm also a Coach Approach associate. So thrilled to be here with you all. And pass it over to Sherry.
Thanks, Ann. And I'm Sherry Peters. I'm currently an independent consultant doing lots of different projects, one of which is I'm an associate with Coach Approach Partners. And I'm excited to kind of share some of the tips that we think we've prepared for you and hear a lot from you as well. So we're going to start today, as we always do with these webinars, with a presence practice.
I saw someone had their hand up. Was there something that there was a question that before we get started? No? Okay. All right. So what we're going to be going over today is really looking at accountability and in the coach approach, and why do we need to ask those things in terms of, when we're working with people, how to help them to commit to their plans and their ideas. What must we ask them? Why is that commitment critical is an important question. The importance of asking questions to understand what they and we need to commit to, because we are partners in this process, and making requests for the commitment and what we must do as coaches to assure accountability. So those are the objectives that hopefully by the end of today, you will have gotten some more understanding and skills. So just kind of reviewing what the coach approach is, we really wanted to highlight that it is about the mindset and it is the skill set. It's the coaching mindset and coaching skill set. So the mindset is really about believing that others are capable and competent, that, we don't need to solve everyone's problems. We don't need to fix everything. And so it's really important that, and often I don't know whether there's noise coming. Can everybody just mute your microphone? Or Mark, can you mute everybody other than me? So just, especially when we're coaching, this is really about when there's often more than one right answer, and that we want to support the coachee, whoever that is that we're working with, support their critical thinking by asking questions so that they can identify their own solutions. We don't need to fix it for them. And our roles as leaders is to strengthen others and build their skills. And that makes our jobs easier. So it's really, having that coaching mindset is something that is really powerful to making things go much more effectively and efficiently. So the skill set, these are the pieces that are part of the model. Presence, which Sherry just did an activity with you. Engaged listening, clarifying and reflecting, inquiry, that, again, asking kind of what are some of those good questions, getting deeper, supportive feedback, that we're listening, we're reflecting, we're giving them feedback on what it is that they're identifying. The focus that we're really looking at today is anchoring accountability, and then also modeling behavior. So these are the skill sets that we will, and so again, these are what they are. Showing up, the presence is showing up equipped and aware and being there, and it's that's where our focus is. And so that alone can be extremely powerful. So listening to understand, just listening. I love the quote around when someone feels listened to, that's also a feeling of feeling loved. To me, that's so powerful, that the more we just listen, I think we need to listen a lot more to people in general. And so that's a big one. Clarifying, reflecting, it's asking, making sure we're reflecting back to them. Do we understand what it is that they're saying, and asking, what else? Did I miss anything? And then asking good questions. This is kind of getting them deeper so that it's creating their awareness of what is it that they really want to think about. So it's helping them to continue to explore what it is that they want to address and how they could possibly do that. Giving positive feedback, the feedback of that, giving the feedback is the way that we increase those behaviors, and letting people know what it is that they're doing well. We often hear a lot of negatives, so that giving the feedback is that positive feedback is really powerful. And so obviously anchoring accountability, which is what we're going into more today. And then the final one is modeling the behavior, so that we as coaches are acting consistently in accordance with these values of the coach approach. So the model, this is how it all comes together. So again, starting with that, establishing presence, clarifying the focus, identify the goal, create that action plan. And so the identifying the goal is a critical piece in accountability as we're looking at it. That creating of the action plan and also gaining commitment, all of them are extremely powerful, but there are some that we may need to dig into a little bit more, and that really helps us to anchor accountability much more effectively when we pay attention to all the other pieces. So it's not just one piece in isolation. It's the more we can connect the dots on all of this and make sure that we're really clear, and that the coachee is really clear, and that's our role to help them to get that point. That makes accountability so much easier to happen. So here's the kind of the big question: how can we follow up in a way that is helpful? As I said before, we are not fixing it for them. So our role is to be supportive and helpful in helping them to meet that goal. So we talk about supervision versus anchoring. As we were really talking about, this is kind of something that has come up over and over again, as a lot of times people are in positions of being a supervisor at work. And so what does that mean then? And how can we shift it, if possible, to really looking at anchoring and accountability? So we kind of looked at these, just two different things as a way to distinguish them. So supervision are more around organizational goals and responsibility, because obviously there are things that people need to do as part of their job. Whereas that anchoring and accountability is around more of individual goals and responsibility. So it's about the individual, if it's within an organization, the individual employees, the individual participants, the individual partners, whatever that is. Under supervision, there are those yes/no outcomes. So, really it is more of that one there is really more of a yes/no answer, or here there is really more of a one, there's one answer that's correct. So what is the policy for calling out sick? That's an example. Whereas in anchoring and accountability, it's the ongoing process outcomes. It is not just a once and done. It's how do we, we've broken down steps. We want to look at, yes, the long term, and how do we help them along the way to break it down into manageable chunks. When we look at supervision, it is more of a task related, kind of transactional, so that we are, doing something for someone else. It's not really related to someone's development. Whereas anchoring and accountability is facilitating the coachees, that their development and growth. That is our main goal, is that we want to focus on the coachee's development and growth. The evaluation has, you know, in terms of supervision, is with clear consequences, both positive and negative. You know, again, we may get a promotion, we may get an increase in pay, we may get a demotion or a decrease in pay, any of those things, or furloughed, whatever those things are. So those are more tied to specific consequences related to our job. Whereas in anchoring and accountability, it is much more of a partnership, so that the coach and coachee are working together to create success, which really benefits everyone. It's just, you know, that's kind of, that partnership is to support the coachee. And supervision has a top-down hierarchy, because it's from the bosses all the way down to, you know, the lower level, you know, employees or partners or whatever that is. I know I've been in that position. I've had a lot of jobs where it was about, you know, supervision. And again, this is kind of what we know, but looking at that anchoring and accountability, where it's creating, the individual has more ownership so that they feel empowered. I know for me, when I am much more in a position, when I'm working in a job where my boss or whoever is above me is helping to anchor me in accountability, I am so much more willing to go out of the way to do things that may not even be part of my job description. But then when I've been in jobs where it was more of a supervisory role, it was difficult sometimes to even do what you had to do, especially if there was a lot of, you know, there were a lot more negative interactions than there were positive. So just recognizing how we are as leaders for others, and also what are kind of the situations that we would appreciate, we would rather be, you know, hopefully in a job where we have leadership that is using more of anchoring and accountability versus supervision. So the kind of one of the key things is that it really doesn't have to be an either or. So yes, these are the situations that may exist. The goal is, what can we do? How can we have supervision that is tied to those organizational goals, but it's with anchoring and accountability? So when we look at just in terms of what the word accountability is, because I think, you know, a lot of it that can be some kind of, sometimes it's a negative term when people think of be accountable for your actions, and sometimes it can feel like someone's looking over you. But you know, that's why the anchoring, it's kind of creating a strength for it. But it means being held responsible for your actions, and that really being accountable to ourselves is really the first thing that we want to think about, because that's going to help it be so much easier for us to then support the people that we work with and hold them accountable. And coaching means supporting someone to achieve their goals. You know, again, these are not specifically our goals, but ideally we want to look at, yes, there are their individual goals, but how will their individual goals also help to support the organizational goals moving forward? So an accountability coach is really someone you hire, whether it's, you know, someone is paying you to coach them, or it's just someone asks you to really help with setting specific, measurable, and realistic goals. I think that's one of the key things, that it's not too big. I know I can jump into things that are just too big sometimes. And so realistic, I think, is a powerful thing, that we want to make sure that it's, you know, not only something that we that we would like to do, but it's something that we can actually meet. And again, it can be small little baby steps to get to a larger one, but we have to set more realistic goals for ourselves. And do we have the skills to be able to do that is another piece around realistic. That the accountability coach, again, would really follow up with you regularly and stay on top of your progress. I know my coach texted me the other night, I'm finishing my dissertation and I've really had to identify some very specific goals. And, she'll text me and it's like, how are you doing? And, just even encouraging me. And to me, that's so powerful. Sometimes it's just the little things, but that's such a really powerful tool that coaches have. Reminding you to celebrate your successes. That's a big one. I think so many times if we don't meet a goal, we set up a goal, but we feel like, oh, we didn't get it as perfect as we'd like it to be. We don't, then we feel like we're a failure. But we've got to really remind ourselves, and that's what the coach is, to help us to celebrate our successes. I know that's a big one for me, that my coach is reminding me, just acknowledging some of the things that I've done, because I think we can be really hard on ourselves. So be aware of that if you have if you have a history of doing that. Helping you analyze your setbacks. So it's not about shaming you because you didn't meet your goal. It's like, okay, so what was it that was a barrier? Were you missing a skill to be able to do something? Do you need additional support? It's really, how do we analyze what was the cause of the setback, and then provide support and strategies to improve the performance? It really is not about shaming. It is truly about support. My role as a coach is to help you to be successful. That's kind of one of my go-to phrases that I always say. It's whenever I'm working with somebody, I try to highlight and say, my role is to provide support to you so that you could be successful, which then has other outcomes. Again, I'm in schools a lot, so I'm supporting teachers, and my role is to coach them so that they're going to be more successful with the kids that they work out, which obviously we have better student outcomes. So, it's kind of that, it's a ripple effect, but that's one of the key things. So in one sentence, an accountability coach helps clients stick to their short-term intentions so that then they can reach their long terms. It's going to help you to get to that point where you are going to be much more successful, because you're breaking things out. It's not so overwhelming that you're not able to, we can get paralyzed sometimes. So some keys. If you guys, if there are any questions or anything, because I see chat, but I don't actually see what's in the chat. So Sherry, if you could just let me know if there's something I need to address.
Mark just shared a document, and Louis
Okay.
is thanking him for
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So the three key things is the commitment. So what is it that you will commit to? These are just kind of some questions as examples. They're not the only questions. They are just some examples. What is it that you're going to commit to? And asking, how would you like me to hold you accountable to your commitment, and figuring out ways to support them. Again, it's that, how are you as the coachee committing, and how am I as your coach going to commit to supporting you? The second part is that agreement. So both parties agree to the commitments, and that they're clear. What are the commitments? What is it that the coachee needs to do, as well as what does the coach need to do? It is a mutual partnership. So having that understanding, and make sure that both partners understand what the agreement is, and setting timelines. I know I use my calendar a lot. I have a Google Calendar, and I put things in there so that I just automatically get reminders when I need to follow up with one of my coachees. So it's really, we need to be aware of what are the commitments, and are we able to reach those agreements, not only keep those agreements. And then responsibility. So, again, did both people fulfill their commitments? If not, what needs to happen? So, looking at, once we've done, now we've kind of been implementing what it is that we're post coaching, and now they're actually in the action mode. What is it that, if it didn't happen, why not? What's, we don't want to ask them, why didn't you do that? We want to say, what is it that was preventing you from being successful? What was it that was preventing me from being able to hold you accountable? We need to reflect on our own, because it is absolutely very interactive. This one I think is probably one of the biggest things. And I've been talking about this along the way, is that we want to coach for fit of the commitment. This is, I think it's such a critical piece of accountability, in that if it doesn't fit with how we, how we feel about it, how our schedule is, with all of these different things that we have going on in our life, it's not gonna be successful. So it's sort of a way to do a temperature check on the commitment. How do you feel about your commitment? And sometimes just asking that, paying attention to, how do you feel in your body? As the coach, we may be observing their body language, observing their facial expressions, their tone of voice. Maybe their face got tight, or we could see even muscles moving in their jaw. And we can notice that. I noticed that your jaw looks clenched. What's coming up for you with that? Those are just some things that we need to pay attention to. It's not just asking that question, it's paying attention to all those non-verbal forms of communication. And how comfortable are you with your commitment in relation to other things you have to do? Like I said, this is, we have to look for, how is this fitting into our schedule? This is something I struggle with. I've often, sure, I'll do that. And then when I really get into kind of the doing of it, and then I become overwhelmed, and I, but I won't put it on someone else. I will take it on. And so, I will then end up suffering. And so it's really important as a coach to truly be able to look at that for myself and make sure our coachee is feeling comfortable with their commitment. Again, do they have the skills? Do they have the resources? What are some of those things that are maybe they're missing? What else? What else can it be that would fit? So, when we talk, and I've talked about this, that accountability is a partnership. These are some, we think about this partnering and following up with them. How can I partner with you to make this happen? Or how can I support you? As I've already talked about this, how would you like me to follow up? Maybe it is a text message. Maybe it's an email. Maybe it's a phone call. Whatever it is, some way to make sure that you're asking, how would you like for me to follow up with you? And then putting a note in your calendar. Like I said, I do that. I put it in my Google Calendar, so I get notifications on my phone, and that we're being specific when we're following up with them, that we're giving them specific feedback. I see you've been fulfilling your commitment to whatever it is, blank, and that's made a big impact with, so, you're tying it back to their commitment that, that they have, they've committed to. And it's a good thing when you're putting it in your calendar that you can even put a note in there in terms of what is it they're specifically committing to, so that then when you do get that notification, you could pull it up in your calendar and you have some notes in there that are specifically helping you to guide the coachee. So again, it's making it easier for you. We've got to think about tools for us to be more successful with supporting our coachees.
And there is a question in the chat box. What if you and your staff commit, but the leadership does not?
So kind of so all the, let's say, employers, is what you're saying, and that the leadership does not. I think the question is, what is the goal around? We can, no matter where you are in your position, you can coach others even up. That's the beauty of the coach approach, is that we can coach up. So asking leadership some of these things, when we think about using the coach approach to talk with our leaders so that we are on the same page, it may be a miscommunication. They may think that we are thinking something, and just not really sure how, we don't have more effective communication. I think everybody being on the same page is probably one of the biggest barriers to having, everybody truly kind of paddling in a canoe all in the same, everybody's paddling with their oars in the same direction. And so that's kind of one of the big things, is that we want to ask them. So, and how does it relate to? So if we're looking at individual goals, is it individual goals for one-on-one, or is it organizational goals? Where is there disconnect? This is, we want to ask everybody else in terms of, if there are a lot of people that are all on the same page, we can really find out what is it, and what are the key features of this, and how does this fit into the organization? How does this benefit the organization? So the more whoever the people are that are already on the same page, if they're all on the same page and can identify, kind of come up with the elevator speech of why this is beneficial and how it could move things on a larger scale forward. I think that's one of the biggest things. And it's also literally just asking our employers, because sometimes we don't really think about asking our leadership in terms of, what is it that you would like to see? What are your goals? How do you think, it would improve? Does that help?
And there was a follow-up, but I think that, and the follow-up says, yes, how can I get the leadership on board too? They are open to ideals. And I think you just covered some of those things. And I'm aware that at the conclusion of some of the slides, we are going to have a time for a breakout room. And some of these things are important to perhaps bring up in the breakout room, when others might have some ideas as well.
Yep, I agree. You guys can do that in the breakout room.
Yeah.
So good.
So, Anne, do you want me to take the next slide?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, actually, yes. Sorry.
Thanks. All right. So, and I think, I'm not sure, Anne, if you really were finished discussing the distinction between the agreement and the commitment, but when you say you're going to agree to something, it's not quite as powerful as when you say, I commit to something. That language is important, and it's really, really powerful language. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, wait, yeah. No, back one, sorry. Okay. I wanted to make one more comment on this one. Anne and I happened to be partners in the very first Coach Approach training that we participated in as participants. And we happened to be partnered with each other for the very last long coaching experience. And I remember thinking that, each of us made a commitment to do something, and each of us put in our calendars that we were going to follow up with each other. And we did. And every time I would see that note in my calendar about when Anne was going to check in with me, it would make me think again about the commitment that I made. So this whole idea of actually giving yourself some tools to follow up with is really, really important, and can be a big help. Now you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Anne. Sorry for the confusion. Okay. So obviously, when you follow up with someone, your intention isn't to pester. We're in this because we want people to be successful. However, situations and people might change. Life happens. And you might find yourself in a situation where someone has made a commitment and it's just not going to be possible to follow through. And it's important for you to be able to be available to support in ways that you didn't originally plan to do. So it might be something as serious as a death in the family, or something as simple as they just didn't have time to do something. Encouraging successes and being curious about failures, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, it is a really important piece to think about, and there may need to be adjustments and changes made, and it's the responsibility of each of the partners. Remember, and really stress, this is a partnership. In several of the slides, it's a partnership. It's not a hierarchy. So it's really, really important as the coach to take seriously the responsibility, and of course the coachee needs to be taking it seriously as well. You can go to the next slide. This is the piece where I have found this to be really, really helpful, this breakdowns as a way to shift your perspective. So when you make a commitment, it's likely that you've really been serious about this commitment. However, things might go wrong, and there may be a breakdown in that commitment. If you didn't make a commitment, there wouldn't be a possibility of a breakdown. It's by definition dependent on making this commitment. And sometimes those breakdowns are really small, and they don't even need an explanation or a follow-up. However, there are some breakdowns that not only require further exploration, but maybe renegotiation for new commitments. So when we think about a breakdown not as a failure, but as a source of information and as an opportunity for new possibilities, it can be really, really helpful. I was doing some coaching with a particular woman right after we had sort of in our Anne and I and Mark and others had participated in mentor coaching and presence-based coaching, and this piece right here, this piece about breakdowns, is taken from presence-based coaching, and we had spent a whole hour talking about this whole idea of breakdowns as a shift from failure, that thinking of it as a failure, to thinking about it as a really important piece to explore. And so right after that, I had a coaching conversation with a woman who had made a commitment 2 weeks before. And when we got on the call and we were talking about, so how did it go? And she was just feeling really, really guilty because she had not been able to follow through with the commitment that she had made. And this was a perfect opportunity to talk about this as an opportunity to explore further rather than thinking about it as a failure. And she just felt so different as we started to talk about this as not being a failure. So it's so important to think about the language that we use and how we view some of these things, because not all commitments are going to be possible to follow through with. I mean, it just happens. Okay, so next slide. So we are going to, in a few minutes, go into some breakout rooms. There'll be 4 or 5 people in each breakout room. And what we'd like you to do is talk about current challenges or issues related to accountability. And then what are some coach moves you can use to address these challenges or issues? And after you have time to talk in these breakout rooms, and right now it's about 10 after 2, and we are scheduled to go to 3 o'clock if we need all of that time. So I think it would be okay to give you 20 minutes in this breakout room to maybe use the first 10 minutes to talk about the current challenges, and then the second 10 minutes to talk about some coach moves you can use to address these challenges or issues. When I send you into the breakout rooms, You can always choose to come back into the main room or click on the little thing to ask for help if you need some help. I believe there will be a little thing that pops up in the screen that says join. When I send the little message that says you're going to be brought back, you'll have 60 seconds to finish your conversations. So Mark has put into the chat the actual questions that you are to discuss. So when you get to your breakout rooms, you can look at those. Before I send you in, are there any last minute questions? I am going to send everybody into welcome back. We'll wait for a few minutes for others. We'll wait for everybody to get back.
Okay.
Everybody had 60 seconds to get back.
Yeah, I think I chimed out at 33. Yeah, we had an interesting concept with Benita. She, she's teaching second grade now, which is great, virtually. And she had some issues with being on board.
So we'll love to hear about those things as soon as everyone comes back.
Yeah, that would be great. Because she, really, and I think it's very new. So I think it happened yesterday. So it would be good for her to talk about it so we can, help walk her through. Yes. Yepper.
As we're waiting for people to come back, there was a question earlier about what does an educational, Imani was asking about what does an educational consultant do? I think I sort of answered it, and I didn't answer the question directly. But I consult in schools. I work with leadership a lot and work with teachers, kind of coaching them to be successful again with the kids. I do a lot more coaching than I do consulting. Consulting is kind of like an expert coming in and telling you what to do. I don't like to do that. So unless I really have to.
I want to give a shout out to Kristen. So nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
So I think everybody's back. And I would love to hear what some of the discussions came up with. So who would like to go first? And you can just unmute yourself and start to talk, unless everybody starts to talk at the same time, in which case we'll have to do it more orderly. But.
This is Tara. If nobody else wants to go first, we had a great group. It was actually 3 of the people were people I work with on a regular basis. So it was good to have kind of a discussion. And then we had Mary Garrett was also in the room, so she kind of got to listen to us. And then we had Cecilia, who gave us a great lesson in listening at the end of our breakout room. But we talked a lot about the challenges of the virtual world that we live in right now, and some of the things that we had talked about earlier about, like, yeah, we could see each other's face, so it's important, but we have people who are reluctant to remain on camera and be on camera, and that's something we have to overcome. But even virtually, sometimes there's those physical cues that you miss, because you're not face to face in person. So there's some of those cues that might be overlooked. So I think, and to avoid the ladder of inference, asking the questions, and then so that gets you to where so nothing's missed. And then we also talked about because and Sarah Walker was also in our group, that they don't necessarily supervise someone, so they're not doing this in a supervisory role, but yet what they're doing is with providers and coworkers is modeling the behavior. That you don't need to do this. Doesn't have to be a like supervisory role process. This you're modeling, because being present, listening, and helping and supporting people, you just model the behavior and you help each other through this, or whatever they're facing, whatever questions they have. So, and I think it starts with the basis of coach approach, just being present, listening, and we all struggle. None of us are perfect with that, but I think the people I work closely with, I think since we've adopted this concept, we've really seen a dramatic change. I mean, even in myself, I said in the beginning, I was one of those people who, you came in my office, my computer was like over to the side, and I would continue typing while you talked to me. And I might look at you and be, and talk to you. But I realize now how disrespectful that was to people. And I didn't mean it to be disrespectful, but I was sure I could multitask. But now it's like, oh, get to finish this, or now's not a good time, or I turn it and I'm like, okay, what do you have? So I think just telling people where you're coming from is important. But yeah, I'm going on and I apologize, but we talked about accountability and how we're processing all this at our different levels of different roles that we each have.
So Tara, that was a wonderful explanation of how important all of these skills that you've learned through Coach Approach can really serve you well, no matter what kind of role you have. I love the fact that you brought up ladder of inference. Great. And the fact that there are others in your group who really get how important all of this is. Great. Okay. Who else would like to?
I just wanted to add a little bit onto that one, because we had a similar discussion. We didn't really have a group. We had a group of two. It was just me and Doris, but I feel like we made up for it, and we are, an army of two. But we talked about one of the other barriers is I find that, like, when I'm doing follow-up, when I'm trying to hold someone accountable, see where their progress is, see what they might need help, I try not to be too confrontational. And now in the virtual world, it's tougher. Like, back in the world where you could socially, walk by people, whether it was in the workplace or people you'd see, you could strike up a conversation and then slip in like oh, by the way, how's whatever coming? And, is there anything I can do to help? Or, how can I now? It's hard to be like, so I was just zooming in the area and decided to zoom you. And oh, by the way, were you working on that thing? Like, it sounds a little more targeted now. And yeah.
Yeah. So Brandon, when you and Doris were talking about this, did you come up with any great ideas about what you can do now that we're in this virtual world?
I think a lot more of it is, you gotta be a little more forthright about what you're doing, but I think I've had more success when I've talked to people, listened to them, asked them what they find most effective on themselves, and then go with that. So, if someone really wants that kick in the pants, if they're like, hey, in 2 weeks, call me up or, email me and, get on me about it, I feel less bad about getting on them about it. Whereas if they prefer a different approach, I can do that. But that way I'm not wondering, like, is this the right approach? Do I seem, like I'm being pushy? If they're like, hey, literally, like, give me grief if I don't get this done in 2 weeks, I can be like, all right, you know what? They're cool with me emailing me like, hey, did you get that done? What are you doing, man? Come on.
Yeah. So you've figured out that it's as long as you ask them how they would want you to follow up.
Yes.
I'm okay about it. That's great. Yeah.
Sherry,
Yes.
I think the other thing Brandon and I discussed, I think it's, Ann had said earlier, it's just such a great opportunity to really explore with a person. I look at my own coaching sessions when I've had people coach me, to just ask questions, like to really, ask very, good questions to kind of start to discover why is it, what are the issues, rather than it being punitive or, fault finding or shaming, as Ann had said earlier, but just really to get down to the bottom, because it's really, for me personally, it's kind of put me in a position to reflect, to really think about, like, okay, why is it that I've had trouble, meeting this goal, and what are the things at play here? So it's just a really good opportunity to help that person explore and to learn more and to ask very pointed questions.
Really, really good points, Doris. It's such a nice opportunity to learn some things about yourself or about your coachee, that allow the coachee to learn things about themselves that perhaps wouldn't have come up if they had not had some kind of a breakdown in their commitment. Great. Who else would like to offer what came out of your breakout group? And by the way, I apologize for all of the confusion in the beginning with sending people to different rooms. All of a sudden, when I sent folks to breakout rooms, 6 people came up without any assignment, and I had assigned everybody in the very beginning. And so I was trying to move people in and out, and it was very confusing to not be able to create a new group. So I apologize that a couple of you only had 2 people because it got really convoluted in the end. But I hope you had great conversations. I know that Doris and Brandon seem to be fine with just the 2 of them. So. Who else?
Hi, this is Sheila. I did, Sherry, start a little conversation with you about what Bonita was experiencing. Is she still on?
I think so. I saw her come back, and Bonita, are you there?
Yeah, I mean, her picture is there, but she's muted right now.
Yes, Bonita, are you able to unmute yourself? Or would you like to unmute yourself?
Because she had an interesting experience at her school, and where she was supposed to get information to come to her meetings. She's a new teacher, I believe, and she wasn't getting the information that she needed to accomplish even her classroom work with her students. So, that was very frustrating for her. And that was a super challenge for Bonita. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. And, to get down to the bottom of it, who was the accountable person that was supposed to give her that information so she wouldn't feel left out or feel inadequate of what she was doing for her students.
Yeah,
So that was
she was expressing the point at which you come to face a disciplinary action for maybe something someone else failed to do.
correct.
But the consequence falling on you. So she was trying to identify where that accountability would fall.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wasn't given the tools that she needed. And then, it kind of fell into her lap as being the party at fault for it.
So there was a disciplinary action that came up.
I don't know if there was or was not.
Okay.
I think there was definitely facing
Yeah,
that.
it was no. I got a lot of disciplinary action. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm at the hospital with my son. I did get exposed for a lot of stuff that wasn't my fault.
Okay.
And then when they found out it wasn't my fault, I didn't get an apology.
Oh, good.
No, I said, but they found out it wasn't my fault. I didn't get an apology.
Oh, you did not?
No, I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. Oh, Lord. Okay. I'm
They
sorry.
did not give me the tools to do my job. Okay. And then when I did something wrong, it was my fault. We had meetings. I say every morning, give me the meeting links. When the date and time of the meeting, when I do get the links, it's 10 minutes before the meeting's over. And then when I get a meeting, the principal laid me out for being late and kicks me out the meeting. Okay, but that wasn't my fault. Okay, I had to do the lesson plans. They would not let me have access to the drive. Guess what? I had to teach the kids something. So I taught them something. One of the teachers looked at my class to see what I was doing, went back and snitched on me. And guess what? I got in trouble because I wasn't teaching what I was supposed to be teaching, but yet y'all didn't give me access to the drive. So how can I do my job if y'all didn't give me the stuff to do my job with? I went through this stuff for 2 whole months. 2 whole months. I kept getting in trouble for stuff that wasn't my fault. And then they say, email this person, call this person, do that. I was professional for 2 whole months. 2 whole months, and I just snapped yesterday. And then when I snapped on them yesterday, I cussed them out without cussing them out. I didn't use no cuss words, but I did cuss them out. Now I'm known as the angry black teacher. And I've been getting in trouble for the past 2 months for just the stuff that wasn't my fault. And I ain't getting no apologies. Now, when I snapped on them, now all of a sudden I'm getting all the help I want today. Everybody was there and ready to help me. But then now I got a label too behind my name. And I don't think that's fair. I got a label, and on top of that, I was disciplined for 2 months for stuff that wasn't even my fault.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what they really not realized, because of COVID, before y'all didn't have no teachers before. Now COVID hit, y'all really don't got no teachers. So y'all want to lose another 2nd grade teacher? Because that's what's about to happen. I got a master's degree in accounting. I don't need to be teaching no 2nd grade class. I can way more money. I'm doing this because I love kids, but I'm not going to be going through all this. That's not right. And then y'all discipline me and y'all didn't even apologize. That's the thing that hurt me the most.
Yeah.
Knowing y'all was wrong.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
sorry. It's still fresh because it happened yesterday when I snapped.
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Sure.
that, Benita, it sounds like you've had a really, really difficult time. And I hear that. I think we all are hearing that. And this whole accountability piece, especially when we've made a commitment and yet we aren't able to do what we've committed to because there's others who have to do things in order for us to follow through with our commitments. I know I have those kind of situations too. And it's really, really difficult. We're really sorry to hear that you are going through such tough times, Anita.
And just I think, you know, because I work mostly in schools and I am a teacher actually, communication was difficult before COVID. And I think it's made it even more exacerbated, obviously, in schools. And so not justifying what they've done. I think, you know, there are so many, obviously you're in a tough situation and it's stressful. So, you know, I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm happy if you want to just send me an email. You can I can, if there's anything that you would
I think I'm okay right now. It's just that the fact that I'm hurt and you disciplined me. And then I can see I deserved the discipline, but I didn't deserve it. And then nobody didn't apologize to me. I got disciplined. And nobody didn't apologize. That's what's hurting me the most out of everything that happened. That's what hurt me the most. I got disciplined for some stuff that wasn't my fault and they didn't even apologize.
It's really tough. It really speaks to how important relationships are and the trust that needs to be on both sides. And it sounds like, Benita, that you had trusted that that relationship was solid, and yet it really has been a disappointment and a tough situation. Okay. That's something that I think others can relate to. Who else has something that came out of the group? Ellen.
Yeah, so one of the things that I love that you and Anne pointed out was the whole idea of the commitment comes before the accountability. And sometimes I wonder if we're really spending enough time really thinking about the commitments that we're making in the work. And as you were saying, kind of right sizing them for what the reality is, even given all these situations. And making sure before you leave your coaching session to make sure that the commitment is very specific, it's actionable, it's grounded, it's doable, and spending even more time in kind of coaching through the commitment, even before you get to how can I help you to be accountable to your commitment. So I really wanted to highlight that as a very, very important part of the process. And something I learned, which I'll share, is if you've asked someone to make a commitment, and they say things like, I'll try, or great idea, or I'll think about it, you actually don't have a commitment. And we could get tricked and fooled into thinking we have a commitment, and then going back to what Tara said, I could jump the ladder of inference and say, but we have a commitment and you didn't meet it. And in fact, I failed to actually support my partner in getting the specificity and getting to yes, right, almost, and getting to the details. So I just wanted to share that with you. I was really glad you put that into this training.
Yeah, and I think just Ellen, to go along with that, it's do you have the skills to be able to do it? Because I think that's something that we don't always think about, like, being able to say no. Sometimes it's not a comfortable thing for a lot of people. And so, okay, how can we, what do I need to do to support myself? Sometimes it's, for me, I had to say, okay, let me take some time. Let me take 24 hours. Let me think about it. And then I'll get back to you, and looking at things further. So it's yes, let me think about it, but then having a way to come back and say, okay, I thought about it and I can't do this. And so it's really making sure that you have the skills to be able to do it. And if you don't, it's okay to ask for help. Like that, ask for help.
Yeah.
And so I think that's definitely, and a lot of times it's seen as a weakness, but to me, that's extremely powerful to be able to.
And it may not be that you don't have the skills, but you may not have the time. And so
that too. Yeah.
The time commitment could be really important. Marianne, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You had asked in the chat if it's okay to talk, and absolutely.
Okay, in our world, the ODP world, we have person-centered outcomes. So it sounds in some ways similar to commitment and the commitment process. What they ask the teams, who are working with our individuals, is to focus on what the individual's desired activities are, what their interests are, and to try to get very specific on an outcome that the individual is really going to be invested in. And then ODP has moved towards us working towards outcomes that are definable and that you're able to plot progress.
Yes.
I don't want a generic goal that someday I'm going to go on a vacation somewhere. It's where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? Spell out the action steps. Are you going to look at travel brochures and decide where you want to go? Or do you know that you want to go to Disney World in Florida? If you want to go to Disney World in Florida, how are you going to get there? What skills? So it's an advantage for us, I guess, in the ODP world, because they're already helping us to think in that defined process way towards achieving goals.
Good point, Marianne. Yes, absolutely. Who else? We have a couple minutes.
Alex has his hand up.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share what I've observed just from hearing Tara and Benita and Marianne talk about the importance of commitment and how it impacts us. And I think what's up for me is that the first commitment that we're really making as coaches is to be a partner and to be in the support of somebody else. So when we talk about accountability, there's a way to frame it that's around task, but there's also a way to frame accountability around just showing up in your relationship. And I think I can check with Benita on this, but it sounds like by focusing an accountability on a particular task, it really affected the relationship to a place where there's unfairness, right? Maybe among other things, let's say. And so while it's important to have, as Marianne said, the specificity and the importance of good language and being on task, in addition to that, there's the day-to-day showing up to be, and you're accountable as their coach to support them. And if you're accountable to that commitment before there's a task, or in between those conversations, to show up as a partner, then I think that's going to impact your accountability and build trust in the tasks as well. It's just that relationship piece is, I think, very important.
I agree. Thank you, Alex. Okay, I think we have time for one more.
Oh, I'll be quiet. I'll see if someone else.
I think it's you.
I was just going to share a perspective. I don't know if this rings true for me. I don't know for whom else it rings true, but in the helping professional world, like I find sometimes that we have a we say yes sometimes, like we're so used to saying yes, and then we find ourselves overcommitted and not knowing kind of how to get off all these commitments. So one thing that I've been working on is this idea that Anne talked about, which is commit to commit, right? I commit that I'll get back to you at this time with my answer, because to say no is hard, really hard.
Yeah.
And because I'm so influenced by relationships, then if people push on me, it's really hard. And so I'm really trying to work on this idea of commit to commit. I commit that I'll get back to you about this. Because the skill of saying no is just not really completely attainable to me right now.
Thank you, Mary Garrett. And I see that Phil, you have your hand up. You can unmute yourself. Well, maybe not. Maybe that was not your hand up. Okay, sorry. All right, so it is 2:56, and if anyone has some last words, Ellen, it says, I do want to share how nice it has been to see everyone. I admire your collective interest and patience.
Thank you, Ellen.
All
And I
right.
just want to say thank everybody for their support. It is, I know it's still fresh because it just happened yesterday when I snapped, so it's kind of fresh and I ain't over it yet. But I will be, but I would just want to say thank you for your kind words and your support. And I know better. I could have handled it a different way, but they took me to their point. So I just want to say thank everybody for all the support.
And Benita, we are so sorry that you had to go through all of that. So yeah.
Take care of yourself in all of this. That's one of the big messages that I tell teachers. You've got to take care of yourself more than anything. So
yeah.
So I guess we're done then. Thank you all so much. Anything else, Sherry, that we just appreciate everybody's interaction and engagement?
I think that's it. I really love the way all of you shared with one another, and it was a great group. Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all.